I'm Kelly Lundberg, personal brand strategist, and I want to share with you some bold ways that you can really elevate that personal brand. And not just that, business strategies that can help grow your business and your personal brand, and a little bit of storytelling along the way. So when it comes to collaborations, here's the thing. They're probably one of the most underutilized strategies, I believe, in marketing your business and your brand. And I'm going to break down why they're so powerful, also some myths around collaborations and followers that you think you need to have, and also share some behind the scenes of collaborations that I've done not only over the years, but some that I've done just recently over the last 3 months. So let's dive into the content. So why collaborations matter. So I put a few notes down here, and I want to start with credibility of association. So what do I mean by that? Partnering with well-known brands, what happens then is it automatically boosts how others perceive you. And very early on, when I owned a styling agency 20 years ago, one of my very first collaborations was with Harvey Nichols, luxury fashion brand. So what that did was it really brought my perceived credibility up to luxury. And these are some of the things that you want to be looking for. 2, I believe, audience crossover. So here's the thing. Their audience, if you're doing a collaboration, meets your audience. And when it's done right, it's aligned exposure. You can support and give value to their audience and vice versa back to yours. I also, one of the areas that I love, believe that brand storytelling at scale when you do partnerships. So you get to show your personal brand values, bring them into the brand that you're working with, and it's a real lifestyle in motion, whether you're wearing the brand, you're using the brand, or you're living the experience. I did a brands collaboration many years ago, which was one of my favorites, I have to say, besides the wedding last year, was with a hotel. And that hotel was, I moved into a hotel for 12 months in Dubai. So I'm going to dive into that in further detail. But the last bit is creative fuel. So what do I mean there is collaborations often spark ideas, the environment. It just gives you kind of like a creative backdrop for you to be thinking about new message angles, and I think it gives a renewed sense of energy. You get to meet different people. At the Echo event I just did recently, I met some amazing influencers, and I saw the tools and the devices that they were using to get great content, and it was just real-time inspiration. So that creative fuel piece, I think, also really helps to collaborations. So I want to debunk a few myths when it comes to collaborations. And I hear this a lot when I'm working one-to-one with clients or in my group program. You need to have hundreds of thousands of followers to collaborate. And really, this is not the case. You need a really clear brand and an engaged audience. So how do I know this? Well, one, through client experiences, because I see them, they start off with smaller engaged audiences, and I know that they get collaborations and have had collaborations over the years. But 2, I've also tested and restarted social media profiles with much smaller accounts with better engagements, and I still get collaborations. So it also comes down to having a clear personal brand. 2, brand deals are about free stuff. So yes, there is that element where over the years, especially when I was working in the fashion industry, the amount of clothes that I would be sent is incredible to showcase on your social media, to showcase to clients, to be wearing it. But I think it's more than that. If you want to build a sustainable influence, one of the ways that I brought that into content when people were sending or wanted to do collaborations that maybe were clothes is different ways, 3 ways to wear this look. And it really, again, brought that creative fuel to creating content, but also the visibility. One of the really successful 3 ways to wear collaborations I did was not only with brands, was to do it with a friend of mine who had a different audience, and we did style not size. 2 different sizes, 2 different skin tones, and what does it look like when you wear the same thing? And that was an amazing collaboration and really added value to bolder audiences as well. So how do you approach collaborations? Well, I think this is so overlooked that you often expect collaborations are going to come to you. And yes, some of them do. Through Instagram, maybe through YouTube, through TikTok, whatever it is. But I think some of my favorite brand collaborations, so wedding last year in the Seychelles, and the hotel collaboration that I talked about a few years ago. These were collaborations that I came up with and reached out to people to collaborate with. So some questions that you need to be thinking about. Does this brand that you want to work with reflect your brand? So is there a similar audience? Would your audience like what they're offering, and vice versa? Is there a lifestyle or messaging synergy along there? And can you create something that's genuinely helpful, stylish, inspiring? And is there ROI? It's something when I go into to do a collaboration is that I don't always look at as what's in it for me. It has to also be what's in it for the brand. What else can you bring to them, and how can you over deliver on that? And I think that comes also down to long-term potential or one-off buzz. And I think brands nowadays are much more inclined to work on a long-term relationship. I think Echo, for example, that I just worked with last month, I worked with last year, and they saw what I did, how I delivered, and were like, how can you bring something? Again, I've done this countless times. Banana Republic, I've done a lot of collaborations with them over the years, speaking events, personal brands, styling opportunities. So there's so many. I wanted to make this real time because it's great to talk about collaborations that you did years ago, but I also want to make it real for you now. So different ways that I've worked with brands in just the last sort of 12 weeks. So first of all, there was the recent invitation to attend the launch of Gap Studio and Zach Paulsen event here in Dubai. So for me, this wasn't just about being invited to a free event. It was actually a real opportunity to understand about the story. Why? Why Zach Paulsen? Why Gap Studio? What was everything that was behind it? It was really interesting to see the pieces that were designed, how wearable they were. I got the opportunity to choose an outfit, keep the outfit, and also attend the event, which was great from a networking perspective and opportunities beyond that. So I would always suggest to you that look for brands that and collaborations that allow you to maybe do something that you love, but also bring something that's related to you. So style and fashion has always been a part of my personal brand, and I think that's why one of the reasons I love the opportunity to still keep my hand in the personal style arena when it comes to your brand identity, which then sort of steps into Echo. So when it came to Echo, who asked me to host another event for them, it made perfect sense. It was style, but what I wanted to bring to the event was personal brand and storytelling. So Echo have a fabulous story. They're rich in heritage. They're so detailed in their style, but when it comes to style, it's comfort. They're bringing confidence and they're bringing comfort. And it was their new Biome collection, which are so comfortable. And what I did for them was I created a reel, again, using my 3 ways to wear, which I've mentioned works really well from a visibility perspective too. And then I hosted the event, and I brought into the event my personal brand values card. What values align with you, and then go and pick shoes to reflect that. It was so much fun. We had all the influencers trying on different shoes that matched their personality, but it brought in style, and it also brought together the personal brand and the storytelling. So you want to find brands that are also authentic and that you can weave in your magic with their magic. Another collaboration that I've done just recently, and I've absolutely loved because it's very much on a personal journey, which makes it very easy to talk about online, to create content about, was with RightBite. So RightBite is a food delivery service, and I was part of their first to try longevity program. So this came at the most perfect time when I had decided that I wanted to do in the summer a fitness photo shoot. And one of the things that I know, my gym routine is really good, but one of the things that I know was perhaps lacking was my protein intake, and honestly the variety in creating different meals and just having it ready. So when this opportunity came up, like, I really didn't need to think twice because it was so aligned with me, not only professionally but personally too, and it really showcased my behind the scenes lifestyle habits, which I think gives another insight into your personal brand. So if you get really clear on what your personal brand values are, it makes collaborating with brands so much easier. So I know one of my personal brand values is health. You see that in my bio, you see that in my content, you see that in behind the scenes. So if I can bring in a collaboration along the way that supports that, it's a win-win for everyone. And then another one that I wanted to talk about, and there's been quite a few of these opportunities where I've worked with luxury hotels. Love working with luxury hotels. One, from a brand perspective, so I do a lot of work with the team when it comes to personal brand presentation, storytelling, how they show up, but also from a content creation perspective. And that's what I think when it comes to doing collaborations, that it's not always monetary value. Some of those that I've mentioned, they are paid, some of them are not, and that's when it comes down to you've got to work with brands and do something that works for you and your lifestyle. So when the opportunity to travel to the Maldives with my husband came up, that was a big tick. It was a great chance to escape just before Christmas, which we absolutely loved. I'd never been away in December before, and it was such a nice feeling. We visited the Heritance Ara, and I actually did a personal brand presentation for all their senior leadership team, and I loved it. I loved getting to know the brand in more detail, but I loved experiencing the different levels of luxury, what makes that brand stand out more than potentially other brands, and they have so many dining options, attention to detail with service delivery, like just different things that they were doing. I loved. So opportunities come to you, or you need to pitch out. I saw this great reel recently, and it was a travel blogger actually, and he really broke down the stats on how many times he had to reach out to people to eventually get a collaboration. And the number might surprise you. I think it was something like 100 hotels he reached out to, 13 got back and 2 confirmed. Like, it was something like, it's a numbers game when it comes to a collaboration. So I think, honestly, don't wait to be asked. Pitch ideas, go back to that creative fuel. Start with local or niche brands that are aligned with you, and focus on the value of what you can deliver, the storytelling, the creativity. And I would always think long term, can you do this more than once? What other opportunities could this be in 6 months' time, in a follow-up, in 1 year's time? Just remember that your personal brand is a filter, and the clearer it is, the more easily the right opportunities will present themselves to you. If you've enjoyed this content, then give it a thumbs up, comment below, what collaboration would you like to see next? I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.